Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg from Las Vegas, bringing you another day of winners. We had winners last night, Hank. You had winners in baseball, football, so did I. Swept the board. It was an awesome night. And we're looking forward to a big weekend. We've got games tonight. We've got 4 baseball games tonight. We've got some football games today. And we got a big card Saturday and Sunday. This is awesome. This is an awesome time of year.
Yeah, it's great. I think the Yankees, I think the Yankees, the other night I had them, and I had the over on runs in the game, so I made a nice score on that one. Severino was pitching great early, and Booney yanked him, and went to his pen, and he was standing along pretty good. He had a lot of strikeouts, and he was pitching strong. He has pitched well the last 3 weeks, and he's gotten good at the right time. So they're in good position pitching-wise right now, and their bullpen's very strong. So that gives them a shot against the Red Sox. Although Dombrowski is a very close friend of mine. He and his wife are good friends. And I'd like to see Dave do well personally. That's not a gambling issue. That's a friendship issue.
Yeah, they're mutually exclusive. Absolutely.
Well, I like Vrabel a lot, and I'm going to call him after the weekend and congratulate him on the start, and he'll take my call because Mike and I have played horses together for years. And we played blackjack together at the Super Bowl with the Patriots when he invited me to join him and the linebackers. And he and I and Teddy Bruschi and a couple other guys played blackjack in New Orleans. And we have been. I met him when he and Brian Cox came to the press box at Calder when the Patriots were in town to play the Dolphins. And we played horses all afternoon, and we swapped phone numbers because he wanted me to talk to him before the big races. And we've stayed friends ever since. And he's a great guy, and he's a very smart guy. And so, but I'm concerned about him this week because it's a big. We call this a Beltway sandwich game because he beat Philadelphia last week, and next week I think he has Baltimore. So that's a tough. This is a tough spot for him as far as a letdown is concerned. And remember, the Bills did beat Minnesota, although I'm beginning to wonder how good Minnesota is right now. Because they have not played all that well. Their offensive line is not good, and their running game is non-existent. So, and I thought with the running back getting back and healthy, that would be a factor for them. So, I'll be curious to see what Minnesota does against Philadelphia. That's an important game for both of those teams.
It sure is. The Patriots started out slow, but the last 2 weeks they're very impressive.
Well, they played against 2 bad teams, including the Dolphins in that bad team situation. They go from that game on the road to Cincinnati on the road, and that's a tough situation for them. Mixon is back for Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati quarterback, he's thrown 11 touchdown passes this year. He's been red hot. Green is playing well with wide receiver for him. Now they get Mixon back, and their defense gets Burfict back. Cincinnati is one of the top teams in the league. Miami could get their doors blown off again. And trust me, they are not a good football team. They beat 3 teams. They got Tennessee at the right time in a game that was delayed for a long. That was the longest game ever. And that game was a fluke. They beat the Jets on a missed field goal by the Jets, and the third game was against a bad team. So, they against the Raiders, coming, from west to east, wearing those black jerseys and the real hot day, early in the morning their time. Everything was right for them there. They're not a good football team, and yet I see people on network television insisting that was no big deal losing to New England in that spot. Was a big deal. And Tannehill was awful in that game.
Yeah, you haven't been a fan of Tannehill or their head coach for years, and you've been right. And this is a tough spot going to Cincinnati, who's been red hot, and they're coming off a big win on the road. And they're getting healthier, too, so you're right there. That is a tough spot. That game opened 5.5, it's up to 6. So there has been a little bit of money in that direction.
I think, there's more than a little bit, 6.5 now. So that number's going up. I'll tell you another number that I think is going to move in a direction. Washington is getting a lot of talk. There are a lot of smart handicappers who think that number is way out of whack. And, I got in at 6.5. A lot of people got in at 7 and took them Monday night. But they could win that game at New Orleans for a lot of reasons. Washington's defense is ranks, I think they're second in average points per game. And they also, Alex Smith, and they have AP who's been rejuvenated in the running back position there. But Alex Smith is solid. He's, I think in his last couple of games, he's thrown 4 touchdown passes to 1 pick. He doesn't cough up the ball. And the Saints defense is not very good. Drew Brees did not have a great game last week, although they get their second running back available. But Washington's defense is pretty good. That's going to be a good game Monday night.
It should be. The one thing about Alex Smith, everybody's criticized him over the years as being a game manager, but I'll tell you what, that guy completes a very high percentage of his passes. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's good with his legs. He can scramble. He's a solid guy, and it's tough to blow him out. So that is a tough spot there. I think Washington, you're probably right. They're a little bit overpriced in that game.
Ask Patrick Mahomes what he thinks of Alex Smith and what he learned from him last year.
He learned a ton.
Everybody thinks that this is going to be a tough spot for Kansas City. I think it's a tough spot for Jacksonville. Traveling in there without their running back again. And against a team that has won and covered 8 games in a row. Who's the hot team in that game? And that quarterback, I've heard people say, well, he hasn't played a game in the snow yet. Well, there ain't snow in there this weekend. That's number one. This guy on the football network, he makes me ill. But anyway, enough about him. But here's the thing, that they talk about Kansas City's defense. And in the game Monday night, which we gave out, by the way, when the game went to 3.5, here's a factor on the Kansas City defense. They lead the league in third down conversion defense. Number 1 in the league on third down. That says something about their defense.
That's very impressive.
While they let teams, move up and down on them. But when it counts on the important down, the most important down, they shore up.
That's a very...
I think that's a great stat.
It's a great stat. Yes, it is. And when you look at Jacksonville Jags, we know they got a great defense. But Bortles has always been a very questionable guy. He can be great one week and absolutely horrible the next. You never know what you're going to get with... it's kind of like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Thanks, Gump.
Yep, we remember that show. But that's a good stat there, Hank. Well, we got some baseball playoffs. You got any interest in talking about those?
Sure.
You know, I'm
I think
I mean, last night.
I mentioned that earlier. I think the Yankees, the Yankee bullpen is going to be a big factor in the Red Sox series. And I think the Dodgers, I think they did the right thing by saving Kershaw for the second game. And, if he wins, I think Atlanta's going as far as they're going to go. So, you were right about Milwaukee. However, Colorado really impressed me in that game. They were in it until it took them to 10 innings. And when it went in extra innings, I think Colorado just ran out of gas. But I don't count Colorado out.
Well,
they're good.
You can't count them out because they got their best two pitchers that they haven't even started yet. So, Colorado's a very tough team. I love the bullpen for Milwaukee. Their starters are marginal, but their bullpen is incredible. I know managing baseball is a difficult thing. I've never done it. But when they go to the ninth...
Oh, you haven't? I thought I was talking to Buck Showalter, who, by the way, is available.
Yeah, but after what he did this year, I don't know that it's going to be... He's not going to get a big paycheck. He's good. I mean, he knows the game, but boy, they had a terrible year. Oh, my God.
Well, they were a terrible team.
Yeah, they were.
He had no players. And they traded away their best player. And you know something? Buck can manage, and he can also be a broadcaster. I worked with him at ESPN. I was very friendly with him when he managed. I first met him. He was managing Fort Lauderdale in the Florida State League, where he got early experience. When he managed the Yankees, Nick Zito was having a tough time with his owners. And the year he won the Kentucky Derby the first time, Nick was in Florida, and I said, Nick, why don't you take a day off? You're a big Yankee fan. I'll take you up to spring training. And Buck was managing the Yankees that year. And I took Nick down on the field during batting practice, and I introduced him to Buck. And Buck was so nice to him, and Nick was so excited to meet him. And we had a great time, and Buck took Nick and introduced him around to some of the Yankee players. And Buck is as good a guy as you'll find. He and I have been friends for years. I know I say that about a lot of people, but I've been blessed to meet a lot of people. And Buck, people forget 2 years ago Buck had the team, in the playoffs. And then last year, towards the end of the season, they went into a slump, and it just never tailed off. And they never came back from that slump, and they just never, they didn't give them any players. And, you can't win without players. Buck has had great success as a manager prior to that, wherever he was, including with the Orioles. And so, he had one bad run. And he could probably get hired someplace, and it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, he not probably. He should get hired. He's got a great baseball mind. He's great at rebuilding teams, putting talent together. This was just an odd year. Things didn't go right for him, but that doesn't mean anything in the long term. He's still a great baseball mind. Well, we got four.
Well, let's get back to what I think could be a heck of a series, and that's the Houston series. I think Houston could have a tough time.
Well, they got a hell of a matchup today with Kluber and Verlander. I mean, this, you never know what you're going to get, but when you look at the line, you got a 6.5 total for the game, which is pretty low. Of course, we've seen lower, but not very often. Unless it gets to the bullpens and they don't perform. Cleveland has a better bullpen than Houston does. But you're looking at a 150, something like that. Price, Verlander's favored. That's 3-2 in other ways of saying the number. So, I mean, it's a competitive game, and Cleveland is... they kind of had a walkthrough this year because they played in the weak division, but they're a good team. They got some great talent on that team, and their relief pitchers have really gotten better at the end of the year. So that's a tough matchup.
Good manager too.
Oh yeah,
He's a good guy in Cleveland.
yeah. You've got the defending world champs opening the series at home today with a pretty awesome pitcher in Verlander. If I was going to bet that guy,
Verlander's been a good bet against the last 10% of the season.
Yep, a lot of these guys do run out of gas, but he's a great playoff pitcher. At least he was last year. Hard to know what.
Well, they don't get him runs. That's part of the problem.
Which is what I was just going to say. If I was going to bet this game, I'd bet it under. I'd like to find a 7, but I don't think I'll find one.
Let's go back to football for a second. Denver is playing the Jets, and the Jets are favored by a point. A lot of people are saying that Todd Bowles is getting into trouble, and yet before the season started, he was one of the hot coaches in the league because of the way the Jets finished last year. But they went with the kid from Southern Cal to start the season, had a great opening game, and then he's gone into he's gone into the dumper. He's not played well since. He's been throwing the ball up for grabs, and he's been running for his life in a lot of instances. But the Jets have a good defense, and they rank high in a lot of areas in defense. And they are 8-2 at home, their last 10 games at home against the number. And they're playing a team that's 1-11 in their last 12 road games. And Vance Joseph, you know what I think of him?
Oh yeah, he's
as
high.
a coach.
He's higher on your list.
Yeah, well, he came through Monday night when with that hook and lateral play that ate up what was left of the time. One of the all-time stupid moves at the end of a game. But he finds ways to lose. But anyway, Keenum is not playing all that well, but they're going against the Jets are going against a defense that figures to do pretty well. Although the Denver secondary is vulnerable, they are not playing well. They've got the great pass rush, but if the quarterback can find time, to get the passing away, he can make plays against this defense. I'm just saying that Bowles may have his team ready for Denver. And, the defense might be able to stop him. This is a good underplay.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I don't see where there's going to be points in this game. I agree.
And it's an opportunity for the Jets. Because Denver is, and by the way, look up and see who Denver plays next week. Okay. And I think it's the Rams.
Oh, that would be, Denver's on a losing streak, so I don't know that they'll look ahead, but let me look here.
Well, they're coming off a real tough loss on Monday night. So it's a short week for them.
And traveling east. Yeah.
Yep.
That's not a good thing. Denver. Denver's at home against the Rams next week.
Everything is working against them in this game.
Now let me tell you what just happened. My screen lit up and 2 books went to Denver 1. Well, there's some money on that side. I don't know if it's smart money or not. You never know. But
well, I was surprised the Jets were a 1-point favorite in the game because based on the talent on paper, Denver has a huge edge with with Miller and the other pass rusher. I can't think of his name right now, but he deserves for me to remember it because he's really good. So they've got 2 great pass rushers, but their secondary is not playing well right now. Keenum is still highly regarded, although he has not played great. He's been turning the ball over a lot. The Jets can generate turnovers.
Yeah, they can. And Case Keenum he was in the perfect situation last year with Minnesota, but I don't know that he's in the perfect situation again this year. And that's been his Achilles heel.
Well, he's got decent receivers.
He's got a different coach though.
And they, yeah, that they got. They have, and by the way, the coach in Minnesota, all of a sudden, people are wondering what's up there. They have no offensive line.
You're right.
Their offensive line play is terrible, and no running game, and their quarterback is running for his life.
You know, that's a real gamble they took up there. They got rid of 3 quarterbacks, Bridgewater, included, and paid a lot of money for this guy, and got rid of Case Keenum, got rid of Bradford, Bridgewater. That was a huge gamble. Get rid of 3 decent quarterbacks, not great, decent, and bringing in a guy, pay him all this money. He's got to produce. Certainly not doing it yet. But there's a lot of things going wrong.
Let's talk college for a second.
Okay.
Well, the numbers dropping on Clemson. He's changed quarterbacks this week, and for some reason, and so all of a sudden, Clemson is becoming not so popular a team, and yet they're pretty good. LSU's got a good game this week.
Yeah, there's a few very interesting games. I think that Missouri-South Carolina game is very interesting. You got a 1 point, 1.5 point road favorite there with Missouri.
Yeah.
There's a few good games. Nothing. Oklahoma-Texas is always a big game.
So is Miami-Florida State.
There you go.
And Florida State finally won a game last week, and looked pretty good, by the way, against Louisville. And so Miami's a big favorite. You know something? That's a lot of points in a rivalry game like that.
It is.
And but I don't know that. I was watching the Mark Richt show last night because a guy that who worked under me is the host of the show, and Richt said something though that I thought was interesting. He coached as an assistant at Florida State. He also played in the game at the University of Miami, and now he's coaching the University of Miami. So he's been involved in 3 different categories in that series. So he knows the series well. And he said something that with the new staff at Florida State, there's a whole new system that it took some time for them to get used to. But the guy with the French name, who's the quarterback at Florida State, had a good game last week against Louisville, and he's got talent. He's tough, and Francois is his name. But he can play, and these kids all grew up together, and they played against each other since high school days, and this is a huge rivalry game. And a double-digit favorite is a rare thing in that series. And I think Miami's a little nervous about it. Although the game is it's a home game for Miami, but there'll be plenty of Florida State fans at that game. And I'm not sure that Miami's going to have that huge an edge at home. And Florida State will come to play. But Miami's defense is strong. I think Florida State has the edge at quarterback, and I think they'll put some points up. Interesting game, very interesting game.
Very interesting, Hank. This has been fun. We're running out of time on the digital recording here. The Hank's plays, my plays are available at jimfeist.com. Hank's been absolutely red hot. 3 of the last 4 weeks in the pros have been, 18-3 was incredible. And you can go to the website right now and get his plays, my plays, Get a lot of good information to make you a winner this weekend and collect some money next week. Hank, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sorry if I talk too much. I wanted to give you your money's worth.
It's always great. We can always do a second recording, you know. Thank you. Good luck, Hank.
You too.